a documentary on a genetical condition known as albinism. Albinism is a rare non-contagious genetically inherited difference present at birth. In almost all types of albinism, both parents must carry the gene for it to be passed on, even if they do not have albinism themselves. Albinism results in a lack of pigmentation, that's the melanin, in the hair, skin, eyes, causing vulnerability to sun and bright light. As a result, all people with albinism are visually impaired and prone to developing skin cancer. There is no cure for the absence of melanin that is central to albinism.
Albinism has been recorded to be a much more prevalent condition in the sub-Saharan Africa, although found in all countries around the world. Albinos are vulnerable and at risk to hot or sunny weather conditions. The lack of melanin means persons with albinism are highly vulnerable to developing skin cancer. It is estimated that majority of persons living with albinism die from skin cancer between 30 and 40 years of age. Due to the lack of melanin in the skin and eyes, persons with albinism often have permanent visual impairment.
On cultural banishment has not been tapped as Ghanaians, and we have failed to check whether it is true, whether it happens. And it is true that cultural banishment persists in Ghana and in selected communities. And our survey reveals that communities within some 5 districts banish persons with albinism based on their cultural system. So based on that, we conducted a research and we submitted a report to SHRAJ for immediate action. SHRAJ indicated to us that yes, they have also conducted an independent investigation around issues that we have raised, and they wanted to meet us and have a discussion. But before their meeting, it's been a year now, so we call in the Chieftaincy Ministry to organize or arrange for a dialogue, interministerial dialogue, where these sort of cultural reforms that we raised per the petition that we sent to them will be resolved. So basically, yes, it is true. This is what we have petitioned.
Aside their numerous health issues, people with albinism usually and always face multiple forms of discrimination worldwide. Albinism is still profoundly misunderstood socially and medically. The physical appearance of persons with albinism is often the object of erroneous beliefs and myths, influenced by superstitions, barbaric cultural beliefs and practices, which foster their marginalization, social exclusion, stigmatization, and prejudice. In some communities, erroneous beliefs and myths, heavily influenced by superstitions, put the security and lives of persons with albinism at constant risk. These beliefs and myths are centuries old and are present in cultural attitudes and practices around the world.
Then let me start by saying that culture is dynamic and not static. Now, these are cultural beliefs that we were handed over by our forefathers and our the elders in society. You know, in today's society, where our forefathers or ancestors were unable to understand some biological development, they tend to attach some mysteries and art to it. So, for instance, you know, in today's society in the past, twins were regarded as evil. Twins were put in evil forests and were not allowed to come to society. Same applies to even albinos and co, because their biological development, and these are things that are biologically explained. So because our forefathers and our elders in the past could understand the dynamism and the biological development of these people, they were considered as evil, and some traditional practices and beliefs are attached to them. In fact, you know, about 2 or 4 years ago, there was even a case in which when a former Minister of Chieftaincy Affairs, Dana deceived that, you remember that story? So that Dana was prevented from seeing some chiefs, because the traditional belief is that a blind person must not do the
absolutely.
Remember that story very well, yeah.
Yes.
So these are traditional beliefs that I believe, society has passed on. For example, we know that today, as we speak now traditionally, twins were not supposed to be mixed. I hope you know about that. But
Right.
today we realize that in some societies, for example, these things are being discarded. Now I know of 2 or 3 twins who were made chiefs. One in the border is almost a very prominent chief, and the other who is a thief. So I believe that we are moving as a society where these things must be, some of these practices must be looked at again. Because the case of albinos is a bit unfortunate, because apart from the fact that they are not allowed to go traditional councils on which there's a lot of discrimination against them. In some countries like Tanzania, they are being killed for rituals. We have seen.
In Ghana, where albinism is regarded as a bad omen or bad luck in some communities, they are banished from the town or sent to the deepest forest to be left there. In other communities, they are marginalized from assuming leadership and chieftaincy roles, as it is against their custom and beliefs to have an albino as a leader. Another myth in the notion behind what body parts of albinos can be used for or as rituals.
Albinism is one disability that has not seen much of human rights actions and policies in resoluting or creating avenues for help for their particular needs. In Ghana, at least 1,676 persons with albinism have been registered, which is insignificant when looking at the vast number and possibility of careers of albinism. This is where the social worker comes in, being present in the formulation of rights and policies on persons living with disability, working with the identified association of persons with disability, thus albinism, using the albino advocates, policies on health care and administration to persons with albinism, that is provision of skin care essentials, eye care, vitamins and supplements. Social reforms driven by social workers on the cultural practices of superstitions, discrimination and marginalization, with intensive sensitization of the public on the disability.
Growing up with albinism in Nigeria was a painful paradox. On the one hand, I received love and care at home from my family. On the other hand, I was living in a society that was generally hostile to people with albinism. I was very aware that I was different from a young age and that the difference was not a good thing in the society. So my childhood memories are a mixed bag of the pain that society can cause when they don't understand a condition, but also the power a family can have when they choose to love. Since I took up the mandate at the UN Human Rights Council, there has been some positive things. On one hand, awareness has really exponentially increased on this issue. And more recently, I would say since the mandate got involved, the visibility of the issue has really increased. More specifically though, from official country visits, there has been some really remarkable changes. For example, in Malawi, they have passed laws to reinforce the protection for people with albinism. For example, they have passed laws that protect against trafficking in body parts and not just trafficking in humans and organs, which is usually the laws that you have. So they have tried to fill in that gap. They have also tried to launch some programs in awareness raising involving the police. There has also been partnerships, because I see myself as a mandate of implementation.
Psychologists can use their knowledge and skills by looking at the lamentations, worries and key concerns of persons with albinism, which is mostly just one thing: being accepted, recognized and included in most societal activities and national activities at large. Social workers could work with psychologists to deal with the perceptions and long-standing attitudes of the society by getting these perceptions erased with societal rehabilitation and sensitization. Psychologists could help in albinos deal with any inferiority complex and other psychological cognitive assumptions.
I love you.
The family, as you can see, like what God did, He had to mix people. So we have the white, we have the black all together. So we are mixed. So it's not like it's just one color. God has added a mixture to it.
When you gave birth and you realized that Naya had a normal skin color, how was the feeling like, your first child?
It was normal because all my siblings was black, so I normally I prefer white, but when he was black, I said it's okay. I know definitely white will come. So I was happy having him.
With us, we have some challenges with the vision. So it affected me a lot in school. Though I always tell people I can see very well. But when the thing, let's say the letters are a bit far from me, I really don't see them well. So I had challenges. Like, the teachers don't really understand the condition. So sometimes they will ask me to stay in the back. It brought some setback. But I really had help from my parents. My dad had to go to the school, talk to the teachers, and they have to bring me to the front.
Maybe in school, there will be maybe a particular person you would like to take here as your friend, but maybe the person will not like to be your friend because of your color. Why won't you be my friend because of my color? But they will not tell you anything. They will try to stay away from you. I tried to go for a job somewhere. So when I went there, I asked them, they told me they will call me back. So when I left the place, I heard them saying, CEO, if we employ her, she will fall our business. So I was shocked. I said, how come? You don't even know me. You've not worked with me, but how will you say something like that? So I realized maybe it's because of the color. That's why they are saying those things.
We have the right to life. There is no need to discriminate us just because of the color. Nobody knows God's color. Nobody knows. We don't know if God is a black man, if God has a white color. We really don't know. So you can't discriminate anybody just due to the color. And we've seen what these things are causing all over the world. So it's high time we stop it.
Psychologists and behavioral scientists can work with social workers in helping people delete any misconceptions, prejudice, or superstitions around people living with albinism by using their three core components, which are the cognitive component, affective component, and behavioral component. The cognitive component, where people have opinions and untrue facts around people living with albinism, and the affective component, where people attach negative feelings or labels around their cognitions, and behavioral component. This is where they act according to the negative opinions they already attached to their people living with albinism, and this is where stigmatization comes in. Tackling the societal issues around people living with albinism will help in a long way of sensitizing and educating communities on the actual facts around people living with albinism, which is biological or genetic.
In as much as it is a biological or genetic condition, it has become a human rights issue when cultures, beliefs, and superstitions stand as a threat to these albinos. The Disability Act of 2006 by ICF, which has largely been adopted by many countries like Ghana, for instance, with the Disability Act of Ghana 2006 Act 715. Social workers can rely largely on this Disability Act in criminalizing societies who go through these barbaric acts of prejudice, myths, and superstitions against these albinos by fostering and driving statutory laws against anybody who puts up these barbaric acts against these albinos. They can actually drive laws and policies that will protect these albinos and also give in essentials the needs of these albinos.